Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the House of Bricks Live. If you don't know, I am your host, Adam House, and today we're going on a ride that's anything but predictable. So my guest, Mary McCorvey, has lived a life that could easily be mistaken for a movie script. She's a Gulf War veteran, former CBS Sports producer, and seven-time entrepreneur. We have that in common. She survived sarin gas exposure, a terminal diagnosis, and at one point was even implicated in a murder at 17. So her story is one of radical resilience and reinvention, and it's captured in her new book, Experience Over Expectation. Let go of the plan and live on your terms. Mary, I have to say, your journey might be one of the most fascinating we've ever featured on House of Bricks Live. So I want to thank you for joining us today.
Adam, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this show and for featuring veterans, especially those of us who happen to have lived a life that we really want to share with the public, which is one of service and it's one of exception.
It really is exception and exceptional, what veterans do for our country. And that's really a shift that we're making here in the House of Bricks, is really giving that platform to share that story, not just to tell stories. Of course, those do inspire us, but to really, let you share from that experience. And as veterans transition, from the battlefield towards a boardroom, who is their community? Who is their tribe? Who do they connect with? And that's what we're doing here at the House of Bricks, is really giving that platform to connect them with entrepreneurs, investors, trusted advisors. So you've had a lot of, I'll call them inflection points in your life, but you've said that one defining moment came in 2014 when you were frustrated by how post 9/11 veterans were being portrayed in the media. Can you take us back to that moment and what really shifted for you at that time?
Absolutely. So I was living the life of most American veterans who leave the service and then we go on our way and we have a civilian life. We continue service in our communities and our companies, and that's the life I was living. And I kept hearing stories. I was, of course, following the global war on terror. And I started hearing stories repeatedly again and again and again that veterans were homeless and they were unemployable and they were psychotic and they were suicidal. They were filled with PTSD that was going to be rampant in the workplace. And I knew from my experience, not only as a veteran, but in the veterans that I knew within my life, that that simply was not the case. But that was a pervasive message within the media. And so I made a decision that at that time in 2014, that I was going to do whatever I possibly could to change that narrative, that national narrative. And that's what I started out to do. And that's what I had a contributing force in.
Yeah. And everyone that watches my events, they know I love to talk about my grandfather. He was in World War II, a veteran. And he was a huge impact in my life. I always saw the best in me, even when no one else did. So there had to be something that you saw in these veterans. Like, what were you able to see that the others were missing?
Well, I'll tell you what I saw happening. It wasn't that others were missing. It was that the messaging was around a particular type of veteran. And it was that the post 9/11 veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, again, were broken and on the street and just in terrible shape, and so and unemployable. And so I saw this vicious cycle starting, where people that don't know veterans, because we are only 2% of the population. There are very few of us actually in the American population. And so people who don't know veterans were getting this message again and again and again. And frankly, it came from a nonprofit organization that was promoting helping needy veterans, wounded veterans, and portraying them, all veterans, in this particular state. And I found that offensive. And so it wasn't that I saw something, I saw what we would say in business, I saw a gap in the market, and that gap was the right message, Adam.
Well, first of all, I agree, with you that portrayal is, far from accurate. And I appreciate you kind of digging in, and it would be easy to just kind of let that stereotype be. But how did that lead to producing a network series for CBS Sports?
Well, that's a great question, and thanks for asking it. It actually goes back to my entrepreneurial skills. And so I had started several businesses, and the way I'm a serial founder. So my sweet spot is in the founder space. And I learned after several foundings that was really my highest and best skill set. And that is my process, is coming up with an idea, deciding to do it, capitalizing it, getting the team together, and then executing. That's my process. And so when I saw what was happening, and I said, I can't stand by and let this happen. I came up with the idea that we really needed to be telling the stories in the media of veterans who are successful. And we're not talking about billion-dollar people. We're talking about people who have come out of the military, gone into the civilian world, and are, again, continuing to serve in their communities and their families and their companies. And those were the stories that I really wanted to tell. And so I started using my skills in communications and journalism to write stories about successful veterans. And then I came up with an idea to do a television program for CBS Sports called the Triumph Games. And the purpose of the Triumph Games was to promote veterans who were catastrophically injured, who had overcome and triumphed over the worst catastrophes that we can imagine, and gone on to be world-class athletes. And so that became the Triumph Games, which was on for 2 seasons.
Hey, so many thoughts running through my head. First of all, we're cut from the same thread, right? Like, I don't know if I'll ever stop starting businesses.
No, you won't.
Like, that's
You won't.
my DNA, is to take something literally, from a napkin, right, and
Yep.
turn it into reality. No one believes it's going to work. Everyone thinks it's a crazy idea, but you just have to get that progress going, right, and build the right team around you, cast the vision, people will follow, and great things happen. And the second thing I just want to highlight as well is veterans have already accomplished something. And I think that's where we're missing it. They served our country, and that's a great honor. And we're kind of chalking it up to, well, hey, now what are you going to do to be successful? Well, that was already a success. So I think that's a mindset shift we need to make, even in the veterans' mind, and how we view veterans. Like, hey, you've already done something great. You served our country. Now, how do we take those skills and what we say kind of transition from the battlefield to the boardroom? Veterans are extremely accountable. They're extremely disciplined. They know how to execute. Like, most of the common workforce struggles with a lot of things that are, second nature to them, just habits that they've developed. So giving them a platform, which is what we're doing here now with the House of Bricks, is how do those stories get told, right? Because not everyone's going to be a decorated war hero. Like, we're also just after common people that have accomplished incredible things, and give them an opportunity to accomplish more and inspire other people through their story, what they've accomplished. And that frequency can create inspiration for someone else to go out and do something, special and incredible. So what did you feel, or learn about storytelling and the power of narrative through that project?
Well, everybody has their own version of success. I'll ask you, Adam, what is your definition of success?
Hey, I ask the questions on this show. I have no
Come
idea.
on.
No, I'm kidding.
You have no idea of success?
I do.
Come on.
Here's how I measure success is really not in the outcome, but in the preparation of what I'm going to do. So if I am prepared consistently and show up, then that's my measure of success. It's not really the outcome, because as a founder, starting 95% of the time you're wrong and it doesn't work out. So that we're going after that 5% of, or whatever the percent is, right? It's fractional if you're viewing it on the outcome or basing it on the outcome. So for me, it's preparation, self-leadership, how I lead my team. That's really my measure for success. And then if you do those things, the outcomes take care of themselves.
I couldn't agree with you more. I do have an additional layer of success. And to me, success goes back into the preparation stage of whether I want to do something. And the part of that decision-making that's critical to me is, what is the impact that I can have? So some people want to have an impact on one person. And that is an honorable and laudable measure of success. And I really admire that. What really motivates me is, how can I create something that has a measure of success and impact on the largest number of people? Lots and lots of people that I have no idea who they are. I'll never meet them. And I'm okay with that. So going back to your question, that is why I really, really appreciated the Triumph Games, because what we did was tell the stories of these individual athletes. We competed, we put together a competition that was a bear. Adam, we had them compete in things that we made up, right? Not their sports, but things that we made up. And we challenged them. We put them to the test so that they could problem solve, so that they could self-lead, so that they could lead as teams. And we captured that for CBS Sports, and we told those stories. The impact that I'm talking about, that I'm so deeply grateful for, is that the athletes came back to us and told us about people who had contacted them and said they had seen their stories and that they were really motivated by them. But also, importantly, in some cases, there are people who are thinking about suicide. There were the people who were in desperate need, and they saw these stories and they made the decision to live. And they contacted these athletes. Now that, to me, is a measure of success that no hockey stick company is ever going to give me.
I don't know what I can say to that. Honestly, I got goosebumps. I almost cried a little bit. I agree wholeheartedly with you. I have a little bit different approach in terms of measuring like impact. For me, it was more towards that one person that needed to hear it today. So that's why we're live on all these platforms. Like, it's not about vanity metrics or how many subscribers I have, but like, who is that one person that needed to hear you and I talking today, that decided not to take their own life, or goes home and is a better father or husband or wife. Like, so I'm really after that one, and that one person can then go tell 100 people, right. I was listening to the House of Bricks podcast and we were talking and, heard this conversation. So I'm sure, I know you're a subscriber to our newsletter and you've seen some of the things we're doing with the What the Truck initiative, it's kind of that same thing, right? Just someone sees that truck, someone hears about it, and then it raises that awareness for veterans, just, PTSD and suicide prevention. So we're on the same frequency with the amount of impact that we can make. And you're right, that's better than any amount of money, any infamous startup hockey chart. Those are my favorite. It's like, oh no, in 1 year, the business is going to go like this. Like every single startup, like no one says they're going to run out of money. Like it's just, yeah.
Oh, I know.
Just give us $5 million and the business will do this,
That's exactly right. Adam, I mentor a number of entrepreneurs who come to me and want me to look at their business plans and their startups and their founders and so forth. And the experiences that I've had is truly, truly exceptional. And I'm so grateful to be able to do that. And so we all have high hopes when we start. And so you know what that is like. I know what that is like.
I've lived it for too long. So, all right. So on these House of Bricks live events, whatever you want to call them, we talk about our test, fail, learn, grow framework. And this is literally how I've kind of built my career, so to speak, is testing, failing, learning, and growing. So you look at the different stages of it. Test. A lot of people won't even try something new. They let fear get the best of them. They don't take that first step forward. Those that do, then they may fail and say, well, I don't like how that felt. I'm going to go back to the security and comfort, and they never do it again. But what really separates people is when they're able to test, fail, stop and learn. And then that's where the growth comes from. Steve Jobs' famous quote, right? Success in life is a horrible teacher. So that testing, failing, learning, and growing creates that action. And that action creates feedback, and you can make better decisions kind of down the road, the more data that you have. So, like I said, we believe failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. Mm-hmm. And your moonshot story might be one of the most literal examples we've ever heard. So you founded a company that was set to land 2 rovers on the moon with a global youth competition, documented as a television series. What was the big idea and what made you want to take that risk?
The big idea was that I would be able to touch through this competition. Again, I'm looking to touch as many people as possible and engage them in something meaningful in their lives as possible. And so I came up with this idea. I knew that I wanted to work with young people, and I've worked with young people before, so very successfully. And I find them to be just extraordinary human beings. And given the opportunity, they can rise to occasions we would never, ever expect.
Yeah.
And so around the time that I was thinking about this, I had nothing to do on a Saturday, and I went to a robotics competition. What the heck else, what else you got to do?
Yeah.
And these were all high school students, and they had created robots in a competition. And they took me in and they showed me, they said, Mary, do you want to go to the pit? Because these were all races. Then this competition, these robots were racing to get particular game things done. And I said, you want to take me to the pit? I'll go to the pit. The race pit? I will go to the pit. You can ask me about that later, Adam. And so my heart was just taken away, and I came out of there and I knew that I was going to do something with young people and STEAM, not just science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, because without arts, you can't pull the others together into something truly, truly extraordinary. And so what I found out about was that there was this true movement into commercialization of space, and that there was a company that was going to land a lander on the moon. And I said, if somebody's going to the moon, our kids are going with them. That is going to happen. And that was in 2019. And I said, I came up with this idea. I've decided I'm going to do it. Now I need to pull together the resources and the team so we can execute. And I did, because it was completely outlandish, because I'm not an engineer. I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm none of those things. But I'm really, really doggone good at pulling people together and different skill sets and different capabilities. And that is exactly what I did. I went to a lander company in Houston called Intuitive Machines, who was an amazing partner. And they have since landed on the moon twice. So what happened, though, when we announced in January of 2020 that we were going to land on the moon in October of 2021. And so the business model was very simple. For those who are asking, well, how in the world could you do this, Mary?
I'm dying to know.
It was entirely feasible. That part was amazingly simple to put together, because I actually used the business model that I learned from the Triumph games, which was to capitalize the company using marketing dollars from corporations. Because it was youth-based, or the Triumph games, it was veterans-based, you think that it's a philanthropic kind of play, but it's not. It's definitely a unique marketing opportunity for corporations, and they loved it. They really, really got behind it. And so we pulled the pieces together. We had the rocket company, SpaceX, was going to take the lander to the moon. So we had the rocket, we had the lander.
Yeah.
we had the business model, we had the kids, we had everything all pulled together, right? And then the pandemic hit, and we didn't understand. No one understood the true implications of the pandemic. But what happened in fairly short order from January through April was that so much tragedy happened, but also business disruption. And so the space industry essentially shut down. And what happened, there were two fronts there. One was the supply chain got completely whacked out. That happened in so many businesses. But secondarily, the war in Ukraine actually shifted the government's initiatives, or not initiatives, but efforts, right, from commercialization of space, which was secondary to military requirements, and what was going to happen in space with that. So the combination of those two essentially shut us down. And it was the most painful decision I ever made to shut down.
Yeah,
I had to lose that moonshot, Adam.
No, I know.
Lose that moonshot.
It literally was a moonshot. And there's a lot of buzz. I'm just going to ask you on social media right now about we never even went to the moon in the first place.
That's a bunch of horse hockey.
All right. It's only 296,000 miles away. It's an easy
it
target.
was 6 days.
What's that?
It was 6 days. And I'll tell you another little part was when we were supposed to go in October of 2021. They made it. God bless them. They made it in March of 2024. And what happened was they landed the lander on the moon, and it tipped right over.
Oh.
Yeah. So you think about
yeah.
my youth-based competition, that was something for the Intuitive Machines people to really take in, and they did, and they learned, and they went back up on the moon.
Well, I feel like my dreams are too small now that you are actually trying to have a legitimate moonshot. So I've got to I got to come up with some bigger ideas. I'm thinking too small. So you said that if you could do it again, you would have pivoted sooner. So and I can relate to this also. That's what makes us great entrepreneurs. And everyone around you, there's nothing I dislike more than a Monday morning quarterback, right? Like, oh, why didn't you pivot sooner? Why didn't you do this? Like, I've heard it all building the house of bricks. So
Sure.
Everyone's got an opinion. What would you do differently, and what really kept you hanging on longer than kind of looking back you think you should have?
Well, the thing that kept me hanging on was the uncertainty around the pandemic. That's what really kept me hanging on, because we did not have the full understanding of the impact for months. And the impact from a purely business perspective was that, the companies that I dealt with are Fortune 500 companies. These were not small sponsors, and every company was what had their business disrupted. They were worried about having their own employees working and saving their own business. But I didn't understand that until probably, I don't know, September, October. And by that time, I just continued to hold on for a little bit longer until it became clear that even if I could get the sponsors back, the ship was not going to go up in time, right? And in order to meet the market demand, right? Everything was just at sixes and sevens, as they say in England. So, and I just held on because I didn't want to let go of that dream for those kids. And I did finally. And they forgave me.
So kind of after that heartbreak, closing Moonmark, losing sponsors, even facing your own health crisis, you came away saying failing is just a growth spurt. It just feels like a bone spurt in a marathon. Sometimes it's such a powerful image, and it's even speaking to me right now. There's days I get up, I don't want to do this, right? Like, am I really impacting people? But like we talked about earlier, it just takes that one text message that I've received, or that LinkedIn message, or the email of someone saying it impacted them, changed their life. But what you described about failure, like I said, very powerful image. How did that experience change your relationship with failure?
Oh, I have embraced failure for years. Failure, your test, fail, learn, grow is absolutely brilliant and absolutely spot on. And if anyone can take away from your program something that can help them personally as well as professionally, it is that model. And so, what we start to get into when we think about doing things that are founder in nature, for example, we need to talk about risk. And we need to understand that people like you and me, Adam, we have a higher tolerance for risk than most people. And I don't know what your risk management situation is or what your perspective is. And you're asking the questions, not me. So I won't ask you again. But mine is an understanding, a clear understanding of what the risks are, and then how to mitigate risk. So that's how I manage risk. And in order to, and that helps a lot with reducing failure, so that when you get to failure, and the operative word there is when you get to failure, that you have the the lowest amount of failure or the lowest impact of failure that was possible with the information that you were given. And the lessons that you learn are much greater so that you can then grow.
Man, you're making, you can ask me questions now. So how do I mitigate risk? I really don't. And I should more. The older I get, the less risk at times I take, but building anything great is messy. And
It is.
whatever business plan you come up with, whatever idea you think, it's not going to happen that way. Every founder that comes to me with a business plan, I try to talk them out of it. You don't really want to do this. You're not committed. And if they don't try to push back on me, I know you're done.
Yeah.
Like if you're already ready to pack it in on our first call, like you're not ready for this. Things will not go as planned. But I do love what you said. And I talk about, just understanding the collateral damage, right? Because to build something, it has to take away from something else. Could be your personal life, could be your family life, could be your health, mental, physical, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, but you have to know what the cost is.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking financial, the cost to do what it is that you want to do and want to accomplish. But I like the idea of kind of softening the impact of when you do reach failure. So I like that, mitigating risk along the way, not trying to mitigate it all up front. Because again, things are not going to go as planned. So you've lived obviously a very non-linear life, soldier, producer, entrepreneur, and something that just jumped off the page to me, which is a race car driver. So my grandfather, not the one that was in World War II, my other grandfather worked in the pits at a racetrack in Marne, Michigan or whatever. So I grew up going to the dirt track and all that. So I want to hear about your race car journey and what got you into that.
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm a race car driver. I would say that I'm a high performance driver.
Okay.
And that means that I drive high performance cars on tracks.
Okay.
In competition.
Love it. What kind of cars?
My go-to car is a Mercedes SL 400. Not a 350, not a 550, a 400. It is the most brilliant car ever engineered. But that's only because I love to drive it. And I do. I every chance I possibly get, I go to tracks. And if I'm not driving, then I like to be in the pit. I like to be in the garage. I like to be in the paddock. And it's actually, wherever we go, we find tribes of people. And in the motorsports community, which is among the finest communities I've ever been involved with, the people are awesome. It's the closest thing to being in the military that I've come across since leaving the military, being in that environment and that group of people.
I love it. I just want to say this. You're cool. Like, this is just fun. We got to hang out sometime. Racing cars, 7-time founder. Like, this is awesome. I want to see you driving that Mercedes around the track at top speed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Sounds like, just a lot of fun. So with all these different things, and I'm similar to you in kind of the diversity of at least businesses I've started. So healthcare, mobile technology, direct marketing, podcasts, keynote speaking, business advisory, all different, right? But what is the through line, I guess, for you that connects everything that we've talked about today in your life journey?
I'm afraid that we had a little technical glitch there, and I didn't hear your last question.
Oh, okay. I just said, what is the through line, right, for all of these things that kind of make up your life journey, from entrepreneur to veteran to race car driving? What's the through line?
The through line for me And I'll just say this to speak with the veterans that are in your audience, because they will understand this. When you leave the military, there is a hole in your soul. And it comes from the notion and the experience of service, and serving something that is a higher purpose than yourself. And so coming out of the military, I continue to have, and every veteran has, a desire to continue to serve. So the through line for me is, number one, service. How does this positively impact other people? And how can I make it real? How can I make it executable? And how can I make it a success in the terms that are mine?
Yeah. So just kind of adding to that, right? Which, when you leave the service, that's another thing we're trying to do, is create that common purpose and community within the House of Bricks, turning those obstacles into stepping stones and serving others within our community. We try to encourage people, right? It's not the Adam House community. Like, I can't be everyone's business coach. There's a lot of people that within our community that can help each other. So it's that multiplying effect of building a place where people want to grow and build together. And kind of as we wrap up here, veterans, entrepreneurs, investors, whoever's watching, if they're stuck in a plan that they can't really let go of, whether it's a career, a company, even if it's a relationship that no longer fits, what would you tell them about letting go of expectations and choosing experience instead?
Well, when you think about what we grew up with the grand plan. We were supposed to go to college. We were supposed to get that degree. We were supposed to marry well. We were supposed to have a great career. We were supposed to have kids. We were supposed to do everything that marks the boxes. And along with that comes a heavy load of expectations. And if you can think about the things that are the expectations on you instead of those of yourself and what your choices are, that's how you can let go of this grand plan and really capture how to let go of these things and live life on your own terms. And I really, really encourage, we haven't even talked about artificial intelligence, and we're not going to go there. But the book, Experience Over Expectation, Let Go of the Plan and Live on Your Terms, also has very, very powerful tools that I used 5 AI platforms to come up with. So it's not just Mary's thoughts. It's actually a research of thousands and thousands of cases. So if you're looking when you're stuck, there are thousands and thousands of probably millions of people that get stuck, right? You're not the only one. So I urge you to pick up the book.
That was kind of dovetailing in. And if you want to elaborate on the AI piece, I would actually like to learn some of the AI platforms you used and kind of taking us through that process that led to your new book, Experience Over Expectation.
Sure. I started out writing a memoir, Adam, and as I was going through it, I kept referring to my go-to tool, which at that time was ChatGPT-4. And so I kept going there and referring to it because I was looking for, you used to Google and now you do AI, right?
Yeah.
And so I just thought one day, I wonder if I put my story into AI and ask it to analyze my story, what would happen? And so I did. And what occurred was a complete restructuring of the book. So instead of doing a memoir, I have a series of stories, including how to let go, including being a control freak, including choosing presence over perfection, those kinds of things. And what happened was that I ended up being analyzed. My stories ended up being analyzed by comparison of thousands of other cases of like stories by AI. So I used ChatGPT 4 and 5. I used Perplexity. I used DeepSeek. I used Gronk, and I used Sonnet. Because all of them are trained differently to bring different strengths to whatever it is that you're attempting to do. And so about 4,000 prompts later, I ended up with a very simplistic model of, here is my situation, here were my choices, here were my decisions, analyze these for the reader.
It sounds like a great book. Is it out now?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well,
wherever you get your books.
Okay.
Amazon's a great place to get it.
I will order a copy today because I love your story, love just the impact you're making. And the best part about it is you're full of energy, and there's a lot more great things to come. The more mistakes we make, the more we learn. That makes me probably the smartest guy in the room, because
absolutely
99% of the time I'm making the wrong decision. So great. If you're listening out there, check out the book, Experience Over Expectation, Let Go of the Plan, Live on Your Terms, on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. So you're also coaching others to live nonlinear lives. What kind of people do you work with, and what shifts are you trying to help them make?
So I talk with people professionally, and this comes from my background in mentoring, but I also do coaching as well. There's a subtle difference, as you well know. And so what I help people do is really have an understanding of what their particular situation is, where they want to go, and ask them the right questions, because they have the answers. They have the ability to either have the answers or get the answers that are right for them. And that's what I help them do.
Well, for anyone out there listening, you can go to marymccorvey.com. She's on Substack as well, YouTube, social media. We'll put all of that in the episode notes. And just kind of a final reflection, I always like to close with this. So through everything you've lived and learned, what's one lesson you'd want to leave our audience of founders, leaders, and veterans? What's one thing you'd want to leave them with?
One thing that I would want
you've learned. Yeah.
Success is in yourself. It's not something that can be measured by someone else. And if you have your own measure of success, and you realize that, you realize the potential of what your measure of success is, then I think that you can be happy.
Goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier too, along that same lines. It's really how you show up, right? You can measure, you can't always control the outcome, but you can control how you prepare. And Mary, I want to thank you for being here today, and for your honesty, authenticity, transparency, energy. I want to go on the performance track with you in a Mercedes. So
let's go.
Let's do that. For everyone, again, if you're watching, go check out Experience Over Expectation, which is out now, and I'll be sure to pick up a copy. And as always, remember, we build brick by brick by testing, failing, learning, and growing. Continue to tell your story. You have a way of impacting someone in a way that only you can, through your story and your frequency. So the more we share it, the more people we can impact. So Mary, thank you again for being a guest on House of Bricks Live. Thank you for your service, and anything you can do to help spread the word to veterans and people out there of what we're doing within the House of Bricks. We'd obviously appreciate that as well. So have an amazing day, everyone, and thanks for joining. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Adam.